Economic prospects for Africa look promising, especially post-pandemic era, thanks to the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which came into effect on Friday. The $3.4 trillion economic bloc in Africa can now trade with each as the Free Trade Agreement came into effect a few days ago. There are over 1.3 billion people in Africa. For more on the significance of the agreement for Africa, we are now joined live via Zoom from Germany by Timothy McPherson, chairperson of the Economic Community of the African Diaspora 6th Region. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so very much for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
A wonderful good afternoon to you, Flo, and thank you for having me.
Most welcome. I think it's quite interesting, the fact that the African market gets bigger at the same time that the European one shrinks. Let's talk about the significance of the free trade area for Africa whilst we're actually watching Britain letting go and exiting the EU. Does that not point to the fact that this might not necessarily be a fairy tale?
Well, indeed, I would take a fundamentally different perspective to it and say it is precisely the fairy tale that we've been hoping for. We know that Britain was never fully committed to the European Union insofar as it had in and of itself failed to adapt the euro currency, which was the prominent currency of the Eurozone. And obviously, what we have on the continent is a clear commitment by the leadership to engage in a new era of collective trade and industrialization. And obviously, that will also imply bringing forth a continental currency to facilitate that engagement. And at this stage, I would like to maintain a very optimistic perspective on it. I know that the leaders have a lot of work cut out ahead of them, but I feel that we're up to the task.
How will the ordinary people benefit from this? So obviously, when there's such huge amounts of money being spoken about and such huge trade being spoken about, the various countries may certainly be benefiting, the various governments may certainly be benefiting. But I, as an ordinary citizen of South Africa, for example, how should I be seeing this? And how should I be seeing this as an opportunity, perhaps?
Well, I think the true opportunity that each citizen across the continent must see currently is a paradigm shift where Africa redirects its attention from being a simple exporter of raw materials to the global community and now looks at her assets for purposes of domestication and domestic industrialization. For the local person on the ground, that means a new approach to how business is being done. When resources are being extracted, they should be having a direction towards a full value chain of economic development, all of which is being realized on the continent itself, as opposed to having the continent simply exporting raw materials to foreign countries.
Well, it's also been a point of discussion in all of this is the issue of this continent of Africa being really sort of riddled with debt and conversations around how this debt can be eradicated in Africa. Very much of this debt is also from former colonial powers. Also, certain banks who've made certain international banks that have made loans to Africa. How's the eradication of debt going to be affected and funded, and how does this then come into this particular conversation?
Well, I think from the chair of the Economic Community of the African Diaspora, we've taken very aggressive steps in preparing for this very day. The diaspora has been well aware that the Continental Free Trade Area was going to come into effect, and it was in that context that we prepared ourselves by having a dedicated currency, and we also amassed sufficient capital for the payment of debt across continental Africa. We have engaged creditors throughout all the regions of the international and global community to assure them that the diaspora is assuming responsibility for the continent's debts, as we believe that that is the only way for the new Africa that exists to begin its economic free trade area, debt-free.
Yeah, what is this Lumi digital currency that everyone is talking about, and why do we need it? Is it very similar to what the EU is currently using? Talk to us about this.
Well, I mean, ultimately, we were aware that ECOWAS had committed itself to creating a regional currency. And so as the diaspora put legislation in place to organize itself, we also created a dedicated currency for the diasporic community. And the Lumi is indeed that currency. So it is the official currency for the economic community of the 6th region, and it has the same legal functions and implications as the euro has for the EU zone. It is the instrument of the 6th region.
All right, Timothy, an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I hope to catch up with you at some point that we can further discuss once we're sort of really entrenched in this. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you so kindly for having me.
Well, that's Timothy McPherson, Chairperson of the ECO6 and Finance, Minister of the Central Solar Reserve Bank, speaking to us on the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. He talks to us from Germany there. All right, let's take a short break. Do stay with us.